July 12th marks a big moment for the Disk System, because this is the end of DOG, Square's Disk Original Group, and I doubt that anyone was really sorry to see it go. DOG was a consortium of small developers for PC games that all got together and took advantage of Square's console connections to publish Disk System games. Unfortunately, since most of those developers didn't really have experience with a console, DOG wound up publishing a lot of, dogs. The Disk System bombing didn't help that, and by this point, Square was finding enormous success in Famicom cartridges all on their own. The DOG developers scattered to the winds, some finding new publishing partners, some publishing themselves on consoles, and the experiment in collective publishing came to an end with 2 games released on the same day. And rather than being full package releases, both of them were released to the rewriter kiosk, the game vending machines where you'd take your old Famicom Disk System games and have them rewritten with new ones. This is going to be a bit weird, but that is not the cover of Akuu Senki Raijin that you would get with the game. From this point on, I don't believe that any games released through the rewriter has a cover that was available alongside it. However, for Akuu Senki Raijin and Moonball Magic, covers had already been designed for them. So what do you do with that? Well, Square put out a promotional flyer for both games that included 2 versions of the covers for each game, and you could cut them out of the flyer and put them in the box with your floppy. So this is one of 2 covers that was made for Akuu Senki Raijin, but if you went out and overwrote your disc with it, you wouldn't be able to get this cover alongside it. Akuu Senki Raijin is the only Nintendo console release for its developer, Microcabin. In 1988, they were still relatively obscure, with most of their major games being ports of someone else's game. But next year, they do have a breakout hit with Zack, an action RPG series that becomes their bread and butter for most of the early 90s. Right now, however, they were heavily gambling on Raijin, because Raijin wasn't a single game. They were attempting to make a merchandising franchise. So you could have bought models of the robot and enemies from Akuu Senki Raijin, or you could have gone out and snacked on Akuu Senki Raijin candy. All of this for a game that, even if it was the greatest game ever made, would be doomed to obscurity just due to the platform and how it was released. So, what exactly is Akuu Senki Raijin? Raijin is the name of the big red robot that you drive around in mazes for 6 stages, and you're attempting to defeat the robotic forces of Golem. That's G-A-L-E-M, not G-O-L-E-M. As humanity pushed the boundaries of the universe, they were attacked by these mechanized forces, and Raijin is the defensive machine built to stop them. There are 3 save slots on the disc, and the name in the 3rd slot can be used for some cheat codes. Putting photo there makes you invincible, and putting Gamera followed by a number will skip you to that stage. He is truly a friend to all children. Of course, I just entered my usual name and got started. And when you start, you're on an empty screen, and you can't do a thing here. What you really have to do at this point is read the manual, because otherwise you will never figure out this game. What you have to do is face in the upward direction, and then press select. That'll transform Raijin from robot mode to flight mode. In either mode, A shoots your small gun, while B fires your special weapon. The special weapon has limited ammunition, and you start with an explosive shot. Initially, I tried to use the special weapon while I was playing the stage, but you can only get ammo in between levels. And if you die and continue, your ammo level remains the same. So in general, you're much better off never using your special weapon and just sticking with the regular gun. Now as you're flying, you'll pass over sections where there's terrain that you can walk on. If you hit select when you're perfectly lined up with those, then you'll land. So what you really need to do is hit select as soon as you've taken off from the other terrain, and that will make sure that you automatically land when you reach the next one. Otherwise, there's a pretty good chance you'll just fly over it. Those flight sections link the ground combat area in a bit of a maze. So you have to land at those intersection areas, and then face the direction that you want and hit select again to fly onward. You have health represented by the energy bar in the lower left, and you start with 200 units. The maximum is 300 units, and very, very rarely, enemies will drop an energy pod that you can collect and it will restore 40 units of energy up to a maximum of 300. Getting shot by enemies does hardly anything, but coming into contact with them does enormous damage, as does bumping into terrain. The invulnerability period is also super brief, so if an enemy gets on top of you, your health just drains away. Especially since you are extremely slow, and a lot of enemy patterns involve them just lining up with you and sitting on you. You're going to notice that you have pretty much no maneuverability in this game. Even in the flight section, it's hard to avoid things, and on foot, well, you're just going to get shot in the face a whole lot and not be able to do anything about it. While you're on foot, when you defeat an enemy, it's likely to just respawn. Sometimes they'll respawn in these squares, and then other times they'll respawn at the edge of the screen. If you kill enough of them, eventually they'll stop respawning, but that can take a while. Sometimes you just won't have any other choice though. On all 5 stages of Raijin, your goal is to destroy the main computer unit. To do that, you first have to get access to the room. Step 1 in that process is getting a data chip, and the data chips are hidden somewhere on the level in a space where you have to perform some kind of action to make it appear. On stage 1, you have to destroy all of the enemies that spawn in this upper right section. Once the requirement is fulfilled, the data chip, which just looks like a spiky ball, will float in for you to collect. Okay, you have a data chip. Now you need a key card. The key card doesn't appear until you have the data chip, so if you've been exploring, you have to go back through all the rooms and find the one where the key card appeared. Fortunately, there is a tell, because usually the key card is sealed up, and you'll have to go through the maze on another path in order to shoot a lock open, then go back around the other way, and you can collect the data card. Now that you have the data card, you should go prepared to fight the boss, right? Maybe build up your energy stores again? You need one more thing before you can move on, and that's coordinates for the next computer. Fortunately, you don't have to go hunting for that, it's just sitting around in the open in one of the rooms. Now that you have all of that, on the way to the boss room, you'll encounter a mini-boss while you're flying, and you'll have to shoot it down before you can continue. Finally, you reach the boss, and all you have to do here is shoot the 2 weapons platforms to either side, and then you can shoot the pod in the middle. Nothing appears to be happening as you shoot it, but it's slowly taking damage, and it'll explode someday. Now, if you collected the weapon unit while you were running around and exploring, that's this circular W thing here, then you get to go to the shop, recharge your stocks, and purchase new equipment. There are 4 weapons you can buy, plus 1 additional one that has to be found, and 3 types of shields that will take damage for you. You can only buy 1 weapon and 1 shield on every visit to the shop, and your funds depend on how many enemies you've shot down. The shop menu works a little bit like the pause menu, which you bring up by pressing the start button, and then press the B button to go into submenus, and then press B to select what you want to use. When you press start to close out of this menu, the game is still paused, and then you have to hit start again to continue playing. The shop menu does have one significant difference between it and the pause menu. After you hit B to enter the screen where you can buy things, you have to hit the A button to purchase, and the B button backs out to the main menu. Yes, they reversed what the buttons did within the same menu system. Once you've made your purchases, you can save your game, or just move on. Either way, you advance to the next level. And what you're seeing here is as far as I got in the game. I've got a weapon that spins items around me that get wiped out if I get near a wall, and because the corridors are so narrow, I am always near a wall. But at least the shield prevents me from taking some damage. The reason I had such a hard time getting to stage 2 is that your health gets whittled down fast in Raijin. It is extremely difficult to avoid damage, in many cases impossible to avoid damage, and there isn't much in the way of recovery. The action is so slowly paced that even though you only have to visit 5 or 6 screens, it takes about 10 minutes for every attempt. I kept getting wiped out after I had collected everything and on my way to the boss. Once I got there, the boss was trivial, but this is a game that is spectacularly unfair. In Japan, Raijin is super obscure, and opinion among those people who have played it is pretty divided. You've got people who love it, and people who find it to be a miserable experience. And I am definitely one of that second crowd. This game just feels incredibly clumsy. Maybe if enemies took less hits to defeat, if the movement and action was a bit faster, if it didn't just instantly drop enemies on top of you who were already shooting, then maybe Raijin would be more fun to play. But this is not a good experience.